All right, so U.S. Navy pilot reportedly spots a UFO over the East Coast. So we're going to talk about aliens. Some U.S. Navy pilots reported seeing unidentified flying objects while training over the East Coast in 2014, 2015. In interviews with the New York Times, according to the Times, multiple Navy pilots spotted strange objects with no visible engines reaching 30,000 feet and going hypersonic speeds. The Time reports includes a minute-long video of two encounters Navy pilots allegedly had an unexplained aerial phenomena. In the video, which include visual radar and voice recordings, pilots cannot distinguish what is seen on their radar screens. At one point, one of the pilots says in amazement, "Look at that thing, it's rotating." These things would be out there all day, Mr. Lays, an F-18 Super pilot and 10-year Navy vet, told the Times. Keeping an aircraft in the air requires a significant amount of energy. With the speeds we're observing, 12 hours in the air is 11 hours longer than we'd expect. So, Josh Gardner, a Navy spokesman, told the newspaper that the US Navy doesn't have all the answers for observations made by Lieutenant Greaves and others. There were a number of different reports. Greaves said some cases could have been commercial drones, but in other cases we don't know who's doing this. We don't have enough data to track this, so the intent of the message to the fleet is to provide updated guidance on reporting procedures for suspected intrusion into our airspace. According to the New York Times, the Navy recently set out new classified guidance for how to report unexplained aerial phenomenon. According to the report, pilots who report the aerial phenomenon speculated that the objects were part of some classified and extremely advanced drone program. In other instances, one of the pilots told Lieutenant Greaves that he almost hit one of those things, and they described it as like a sphere encasing a cube. Lieutenant Greaves and his fellow pilots told the newspaper that the video shows the objects accelerating to hyperspeed, making sudden stops and instantaneous turns, something beyond physical limits of a human crew. CBS News had previously reported on a little-known Pentagon program with a budget of about $22 million, one that investigated flying objects before the Defense Department ended in 2012. While the Defense Department says it ended at the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program in 2012 over funding issues, a Pentagon spokesman said the DoD takes seriously all threats and potential threats of our people, our assets, our mission, and takes action whenever credible information is developed. Last year, 2 airline pilots claimed an unidentified flying object flew over their planes at an altitude of 30,000 feet in Arizona. According to the radio logs, 2 separate pilots of a Learjet operated by Phoenix Air and an American Airlines flight saw the object flying the opposite direction of the direction of the planes. So, we do have that video. We might play that for you guys now. Okay, that's not the video we want. Let's see if we refresh the page. Here it is here.
It was revealed that the Department of Defense ran a $22 million effort to document and research UFOs. But is the Pentagon sitting on a trove of extraterrestrial evidence, or is this just the latest fuel for conspiracy theorists? UFO researcher and historian Richard Dolan joins us to deliver some insight into the government's so-called Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Richard, thank you so much for being with us. Now, for so long, the government has denied the existence of alien life, but now it seems they could be sitting on some evidence of alien life. So what can you tell us about this now defunct Pentagon program, and does it lend any credibility to the possible existence of alien life?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Paula. I think is a very interesting development that's happened in this last month. It is true that the United States government for many years has completely denied any overt interest in what we would call UFOs. On the other hand, that's always been contradicted by a large body of declassified evidence that has come out by bits and bits since the 1970s through the Freedom of Information Act, which have, in many cases, shown that there have been lots and lots of military encounters with highly unconventional objects that just defy any kind of normal explanation. So this is a phenomenon that they know about. They just don't like talking about it because I don't think that they either don't have full answers and know what to tell us, or maybe they do have answers and they'd rather not tell us as well. This new program is interesting because it is an acknowledgement by the Pentagon itself, after investigation by New York Times journalists, of a program to study UFOs. And this goes right up into our own century. It was only shut down a few years ago. And they've had some very, very unusual cases that they, again, cannot explain. Just as in the 1950s and 60s, so too in the 21st century.
Unusual and fascinating. Now, much of the funding went to a billionaire friend of former Senator Harry Reid, Robert Bigelow. His company, Bigelow Aerospace, claims it recovered materials from, quote, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Now, what can you tell us about Bigelow Aerospace and what it actually found?
Well, I'm very glad you're asking this question. It's an unusual one, and I'm not hearing it asked anywhere else in the media. But this was one of the little bombshells that came out in the New York Times piece a couple of weeks ago, that objects that were recovered from these encounters, or somehow UFOs have been recovered and studied. This is a claim that's been going for years and years and years, and the government would blandly just say, no, that's never happened. And suddenly now, boom, here's the acknowledgement that they've been doing it. What nobody knows, or at least what I don't know, is what Bigelow Aerospace has determined what these objects are. But they're a major company. Robert Bigelow has run this company for many, many years. He's been a defense contractor for a long time. He's clearly very well connected, and has personally indicated a strong interest in UFOs for a long, long time.
Now, one of the highlights of this recent fervor is footage from a Navy F-18 showing what has been described as, quote, aircraft surrounded by a glowing aura traveling at a high speed and rotating as it moves. Now, some could argue that this is just the latest in a series of these dubious UFO sightings. But in your expert opinion, is there anything different about this specific account?
Yes, I think it's very interesting. And look, when you look at some of these UFO videos on their own without context, it's easy to be dismissive of them and say, oh, well, that doesn't prove anything. But we have to look at everything in context. And this video was released by the Navy in connection with an incredibly fascinating UFO encounter. The Navy had not a particular object for 2 weeks before they actually sent a couple of F-18A Hornets to intercept. Those are top-of-the-line fighter jets, by the way, and who were completely outclassed by this object that people are able to see on video here. So it's quite interesting. That object had been tracked at an altitude of 80,000 feet, which is very high, dropping down to 20,000 feet, apparently quite easily, and then was seen either at the water level or below the water, making maneuvers that I think the pilot of the F-18A said, basically, I don't know what that is, but I want to fly it.
Wow. Richard Dolan, thank you so much for joining us to share your expertise on this fascinating subject. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So look, yeah, very interesting. We knew about this declassified information already. I think we've also reported on that in the past. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's interesting stuff. I do find it very interesting that the US government is like, no, there's no such thing as aliens. Oh, by the way, we've secretly been spying and studying aliens for the past God knows how many years. But don't worry, that program has since been declassified because, we've never lied to you about this stuff in the past, right? Personally,
Yeah.
I think they're still researching aliens. I think they're just like, oh wait, there's too much heat on this particular project, so we'll just claim it shut down and we'll just start it up and we'll move everybody to the new project.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned about the whole aliens thing.
You're talking about the whole
Disclosure.
yeah.
Yeah, the whole disclosure thing. I'm I'm a little worried that they might be setting up the populace for a hoax.
Yeah,
You know.
so there is a common theory, or a theory at least anyway, I'll say that much, where people believe that the government will actually use a false flag like UFOs to bring in some sort of authoritarian state or the New World Order or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the New World Order. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I have heard that theory. It is possible, I suppose. I think it really does depend on, for example, if they come here to attack or if they come here to come peacefully. I don't know. But I don't know, guys. Let's know what you think in the comment section below regarding this new theory, or regarding this theory around the New World Order and aliens attacking, or aliens at least. And also let us know what you think about aliens. Do you think they're real? Do you think this is all fake news? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below.